September 24th, 2025. It's 9 a.m. and we're here to discuss the background check policy and drug policy. And I'll turn it over to our prosecutor, Ben Allen.
Okay. Last time we met, which was just last week, I know we got a short turnaround time, so we were trying to keep some of these things moving. Jeff, I know you had a follow-up task regarding the credit check side of things. Sounds like maybe we haven't got an answer back yet.
No, not yet.
So we can leave that one tabled still. But otherwise, the other task was for each of you guys to go back through the most recent draft of the background check policy. Let me know if there were any errors, issues, amendments, corrections, etc. that we wanted to chat about as a group, or even the misspelled words, which I gladly take that feedback too. That's good feedback.
I just real quick on the task, we can always, if we pass this as it is with the credit check, I think we can always go back and, because that's going to be the hard part, is how do we build it, and what can we do something on the side to build that, to kind of more of a procedure, not a policy, because it's going to be a procedure instead of a policy. The policy says we got to have it, but what do we do when we get it? And maybe have a procedure of how to go through it, and maybe we can add that, because it's going to be, what I'd like to do is, it'd be nice to we'd have to have a company get it anyway. We can't just, I guess we could order it from Equifax.
I mean, you could have a company produce the results for you,
yes,
but not interpret the results, which is the cheaper way of doing it, but then you have to ensure fair interpretation of that record, which is kind of the internal issue that we're trying to navigate.
And what I'm getting is it goes to their HR department, and we don't have an HR department. So,
one of the things we could do is we could build into our background check policy the option for a credit check, and then leave the credit check aspect as a work in progress until it's ironed out and we have something to actually implement.
Okay.
So, I mean, if we say, hey, we're not getting the answers we want to this credit check piece, but we really want to get this background check policy moving forward and adopted, we could actually pull the credit check out, just reference that there's a credit check policy that may exist, and if it does exist, it'll have to be complied with. Similar to what we've done with the drug and alcohol testing, right? So we've extracted that out. We've made it its own policy. And for that one, we did it just because it's such a big aspect that it would almost, swallow the background check policy in and of itself. I don't think it's going to be the same case with the credit check, but you could still pursue the same concept structurally. So that could be an option.
Okay.
I mean, do you guys want me to just proactively plan to go that route? Or do we want to give it a little more time and try to see if we can?
Well, give me by the end of this week.
Okay.
I think we can, iron something out.
Okay.
Do you want to do that before we get feedback from the other elected? I mean, at some point we're going to solicit feedback from the other elected, right? Is it time yet that we could start doing that, or do you want to refine that before you?
I think we can start doing that, getting other feedback. This is just going to be more of a, like I said, procedure of how to do it and who's going to do it.
Well, in the interest of keeping it rolling forward, I think maybe it's time we officially get input from the other elected officials or department heads that would be affected by the.
I'd agree. Yeah.
Okay.
Because they may come up with some things that we haven't thought of that we need to change.
Okay.
Other areas of the background check policy. Did you guys have questions, comments, requests for modification?
No, I didn't have anything further.
No.
Okay.
Either.
Well, I can leave the credit check section as is, and then I'll fix Dave's typo from last week, and we can at least get this one circulated then if you
Okay.
guys are ready for that.
I would agree.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Drug and alcohol testing policy. So you guys got to take your first peek at that one. So, do we want to start from the top, or do you guys just want to spew out your recommendations in turn? I can do either.
Let's just start from the top.
Yeah.
Okay. Statement of purpose. Anything in that section?
I didn't see anything.
No.
No.
Okay. Definitions of terms. Anything for that section?
None.
Not
For me.
Okay. I'll just point your attention to, in the definition of terms, subsection G. Just so you guys know, that was a section we actually spent a lot of time on. We went back and forth. We drafted that definition 10 different ways. So we really tried to wrap our head around what does that look like and how do we want that to be implemented. So just so you guys know, that's a specific section that different public entities were treating this scenario all different ways. There really wasn't any consistency between policies, and so this is one that we really grappled with. But
And I think that I looked at it. It looked good. You about covered everything
okay,
except for airplanes, but we don't fly airplanes.
I was looking at it through our lens of our history, and I think it would have solved a couple of questions that have come up in the past.
okay.
I think it would have answered those questions. So,
Well, I utilized our deputy prosecutor Luke to take a stab at kind of the initial definition, and then we went back and forth, and then after I kind of put my prosecutor hat on and said, if I look at this from some of the terminology we see in a lot of the Idaho codes, am I using the right terminology? Are we approaching this the right way? And so that's kind of how we massaged it to reach what we have now. But it's always still open for input and other recommendations. So next section, prescribed activities. First subsection is use and possession prohibited. Anything in that paragraph?
No.
No.
Okay, how about the paragraph below dealing with prescription drugs?
I didn't.
No.
I didn't see anything on that one either.
Yeah.
Okay. Next page, alcohol use or misuse.
Anything? I didn't have anything on that one.
No. I
Okay.
didn't either.
The next primary section is testing types. So first we have pre-employment testing. Anything in that section?
No.
No.
I had down good. I liked how it's clearly broken into the three types of testing. I appreciated that.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and that was feedback from you guys, right? So when we met early on, we were just discussing concepts. I know that was one of the concepts you guys wanted to capture. So random testing, anything in that section?
No.
Okay. Post-accident testing. This is the one that's getting a lot of attention these days.
Yeah.
I know.
I think that one's good.
This section, once again, is one of those that we spent a lot of time on, trying to figure out how do we structure this? How do we do it without being overly wordy or cumbersome? We want it to be easy for employees to understand. We want them to read it and know exactly what their obligation is. But we also want it to be enforceable. So we want to make sure that our supervisors that are responsible for helping to enforce this say, yeah, this is a policy I can work with.
Yep.
So
I had
this... go ahead.
I had a question on paragraph 2 in
Okay.
that just what you're saying right here. Do we have the physical ability to get somebody a test within 2 hours of an accident?
So we have, I would say, two primary options for it. First, it's my understanding that our SCSO always has testing kits on site. And although I don't want to speak for the SCSO, during interactions when we've drafted policies in the past that needed their assistance, the admin over there is usually really accommodating to say, hey, if you need us to play a part in this policy, just let us know.
Okay.
So because of that past interaction with our sheriff's office, I was drafting this with the assumption that if we needed to knock on their door and say, do you have a detention deputy on duty that could administer a urinalysis test or help with this, that they might be able to help. If it's during regular business hours, of absolute drug testing, which is in Kellogg.
Mm-hmm.
We utilize that for a lot of our probationers.
Mm-hmm.
And so we could also consider, as we roll this policy out, getting verification from them that they don't have any issue with, as long as they're open, assisting with the enforcement of this.
Okay.
Yeah, as long as it's enforceable, I liked it. I just wondered.
Yeah, and you'll notice in that second paragraph, the first sentence says within 2 hours or as soon thereafter as practical. So we're trying to capture the fact that if this happens, on a snowplow at 3 a.m., nobody's open.
Yeah.
Detention facility might have one person on duty. We might not be able to get a test done.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to be mindful of that, because I think you bring up a great point, Dave, and that is you don't ever want to adopt a policy that you don't think you can actually enforce.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, anything else for that section?
No.
No.
All right, testing procedures. First,
Oh, wait,
we have.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
One thing. When we're drafting our vehicle policy,
Yeah.
this will be one of the parts of our vehicle policy is.
So my recommendation when you've got policies that rely on each other is to not state a procedure within the policy in more than one location. And so how I would recommend that play out, I know I've chatted with Melissa about this already, is if we want to utilize the obligations within the drug and alcohol testing policy, rather than copying and pasting those over into the vehicle use policy, within the vehicle use policy, we simply reference that the drug and alcohol testing policy exists, and whatever the drug and alcohol testing policy says is what's going to govern.
Okay.
So that way you don't ever have conflicting provisions where maybe 5 years from now we sit down and we update the vehicle policy and we make some modifications and we don't realize that same language was copied and pasted from the drug and alcohol policy, and now they read differently.
Okay.
Which would create an issue for us.
Should we be on like the just for clarification and for ease, like on this drug policy, should we be putting sections on here, like section 1, section whatever, so that you can
Refer to them.
refer to them in that?
Yeah, I usually do that. So once I get to the end of drafting and I know, okay, this is how it's going to look, I'll go through and I'll number everything.
Okay.
And if there's too many sections or it's too cumbersome, sometimes I'll input a table of contents at the beginning so you know where to find things.
Okay.
This one's shorter. I don't
Yeah.
know that we'll need a table of contents for it, but we'll at least have headings and subheadings that are numbered.
Okay. That sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, testing procedures. Collections, the first section. Let me know if we've got anything there.
No.
No.
Okay. How about results?
Nothing from me.
No.
Okay. On page 5, we have violations. And our first subsection for violations deals with inspections, searches, and investigations. Anything in that paragraph?
No.
No.
I appreciated how you worded the second half of the paragraph. I thought that made sense.
Next section is reasonable suspicion. This is one of those subsections that we also spent a good deal of time on, as I'm sure you can imagine. Anything there?
No.
Okay. Next we have refusals on page 6.
Makes sense.
Okay. How about disciplinary actions?
Is the last paragraph I had trying to remember I had a question when I read it the first time. To do with the costs borne exclusively by the employee seeking or being sent. So we order somebody to take a test, and insurance won't cover it. Are we within our rights to say, and you get to pay for the test even though we ordered it?
So the test will be paid for by the county.
Test is paid for.
This section deals with evaluations.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
That makes
And easy to confuse. So we're contemplating either that somebody has violated the policy and we're saying, okay, we found you in violation of this policy. However, we're going to let you stay employed in a condition of continued employment, typically through, a mechanism like a last chance agreement or something like that. Sometimes ICRIMP loves these PIPs, the personal improvement plans. So sometimes you can tie it into that.
Okay, that's what I was wondering if that's, okay.
But you can say, hey, as a condition of continued employment, we want to see that you're doing X, Y, or Z to address the underlying issue, which if that's treatment, usually requires an evaluation as a prerequisite to the treatment, because we can't just go get treatment for something if we don't know what the issue is. So the evaluation precedes the treatment.
And that's what they're paying for.
Yeah, that's what they're paying for.
Gotcha.
Or, theoretically, there's a chance that depending on what the condition or evaluation is, that the employee's county health insurance may pay for some of those.
Okay.
So, next section is self-referrals and rehabilitation. This is a section that was actually missing from the majority of policies that we reviewed when we were trying to grab ideas and concepts. I think I only found this type of language in like one or two other examples, but I really think this is where best practices is headed. So I drafted it into ours. I think this kind of puts us ahead of the game. I think this gets us compliant with where I think we're going to start seeing, court opinions and things like that head. And that is, from a conceptual standpoint, if you have an employee that's currently working for the county, they're struggling with substance abuse or addiction, you want them to report that to you. You want them to feel comfortable enough bringing those issues to your attention as an employer. Because what you don't want is you don't want those issues to be unaddressed and then it result in an accident on county time, right? So you want people to bring those issues to your attention. And so in order to provide the mechanism for doing that, you've got to break down the walls for self-reporting and assist those individuals with addressing their underlying concerns. So that's really the purpose behind this paragraph.
Have we looked at our insurance policy to see if that's something that they cover, or our health insurance, or?
I have not.
Okay.
We definitely could do that. I mean, we could send one of our
ask. Okay. I
our
think
ladies
that's a good
to.
idea.
Yeah, I would actually like to know too, just for my own edification.
Okay.
All right, that brings us to the last section. The last section here, I haven't drafted yet because I think it's going to primarily just deal with the sheriff's office. So I really wanted to have their input. I got some input from our roads department. I don't think our roads department is going to conflict at all. I'll still probably draft in a couple of sentences that deals with if there is a conflicting provision that arises between two policies, because theoretically there might be more than one policy in place. If Public Works is leaning on federal regulations to govern how they deal with CDLs and things like that, those requirements could be changed at the federal level at any time.
That's right.
And we may or may not know and be able to adapt with our own internal county policy. So I've got an exemption section here just as a placeholder. I haven't finalized what that language is going to look like yet, but I wanted to put a placeholder in here so we knew this was going to come, and it'll be in the final draft. Attached is an addendum. You're going to see the rough draft form I put together that employees would sign. This is similar to what they would sign when receiving any policy that they're going to be asked to comply with. Whether that's a credit card use policy or a personnel policy, etc. So this one just deals with their obligations regarding drug and alcohol testing. Any recommendations for revision on that?
No.
No, it looks good.
No,
Okay.
but that would, just real quick on that, like the roads department or somebody with an exemption, would that exemption be included in this where they sign it, or?
So the exemption could play out a couple of ways. First, if we've got another county department that says, hey, for reasons X, Y, or Z, we think we need to have our own internal policy that may conflict with what's being required at the county level. I think I'll take a look at it as the county's legal counsel, and I'll say, yep, you've checked all the boxes we're trying to check here, so we'll just exempt your employees altogether because they're going to have their own policy they have to comply with.
Okay.
If it's not necessarily a matter of exemption, but it's a matter of dealing with conflicts, in other words, we're going to make them comply with both, but if for some reason two provisions from each conflict with each other, we need to be able to determine which policy is going to control.
Okay.
And so I'll have to draft in language to account for that.
Okay. Okay.
All right. Well, our corrections were fairly minimal. Does that mean you guys want to circulate this one too?
Yes.
Or-
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Well, we can get both of them circulating then.
Okay.
Okay.
And we're gonna circulate elected and department heads?
That's usually my go-to recommendation. I mean, you guys can circulate it to whoever you want, but at the very least, those are kind of the
Yes.
two
Okay.
persons of authority or positions of authority that I think have maybe the most significant input for you on policies.
That makes sense to me.
And those, elected officials or department heads, when they get it, they can circulate it internally to solicit feedback. So, like, I am in that same boat. Even if it's a policy that I've drafted, once it comes time to circulate, I usually take most of these policies and I pass it down to my employees to say, hey, if you have feedback, report it to me.
Yep.
Then I can figure out, do we have consistency in some of the feedback? Is some of the feedback, maybe not feedback that I agree with, and so maybe I don't want to advocate for that feedback. Maybe it is. Maybe it's feedback that I say, I didn't think about this, but from an employee's perspective, I can see where we probably want to address that. And so I do that internally. I circulate these policies down to my staff, and sometimes I get feedback, and sometimes I get silence, but at least they've had an opportunity to look at it and let me know if there's anything that jumps out to them as an employee.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, anything further?
No.
No.
All right, so
Thank
follow-up
you.
task from here. Jeff, you've got a couple.
Yep. Credit and insurance.
Yep, credit and
Questions?
insurance are your follow-ups. My next follow-ups actually deal with feedback from other departments, so I'll wait for that. I'll fix a couple of the typos. I'll clean up the structure, and then we'll get both of these circulated.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, how
Thank
much?
you.
Work.
You bet.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.